So I just got done watching episode 2 of season 3 of House of the Dragon, titled Queen's Landing. And to be honest, this actually felt more like episode 10 of season 2, but more on that later on in the video. So as is customary with these recaps that I do after the episode, I'm going to be going over some of the things that happened during the episode. So if you know you haven't seen the episode and you don't want to be spoiled on those details, then consider this your spoiler warning. So the episode opens in the aftermath of the Battle of the Gullet, which, as you can remember, was one of the bloodiest battles ever fought in the history of Westeros as a whole. And the episode did do it a lot of justice, and it only made sense for this episode to show some of the aftermath of what happened, especially that gut-wrenching ending with Jace being killed by those archers. So we more or less get a scene showing Baela bringing Jace home to Dragonstone and Rhaenyra discovering that another one of her sons had died. And I just have to say that this scene was very heartbreaking, and Emma Darcy really gives a heartfelt performance that I feel should more or less secure a nomination for an Emmy, at least based on what I saw, because she really conveyed the emotions that the scene needed and the gravity of the situation, and she was more or less a highlight of this episode as she's been for most of the series thus far. Then, in a twist of fate, we have Rhaena heading back to the Vale with Sheep Stealer, going there to seek asylum, but the woman at the Vale refuses to take her in, but she was able to bargain with her that she was going to be able to protect them with the dragon going forward, and it remains to be seen what's going to happen with the Rhaena character. But to be honest, I have very little investment in her storyline. From what I hear, she wasn't even a part of the Battle of the Gullet in the books, and this was more or less done to create some additional tension for the show. So it remains to be seen what this will lead up to, but I just have to say that I don't particularly care. Heading back to the Riverlands, we get a scene with Daemon and the rest of his army celebrating their victory over the Lannisters when he receives a letter from Rhaenyra, learning about Jace's death and hearing that he has been summoned back to Dragonstone to help her take King's Landing. And he has a subsequent discussion with the witch Alice, where she reveals that she'd like to ask Rhaenyra to give her Harrenhal, that she had more or less lived there for the better part of her extended life, having seen it get handed down from one lord to the other. And she felt it was kind of owed to her for the role she had played in helping Daemon raise the men that fought in the battle. But Daemon reminds her that she's just a midwife and wasn't somebody with any kind of station, and they might not be able to grant her the castle because of that. And I have to say that I kind of like where this is going, because as you will see later on in the episode, this is sowing some threads for what could potentially be some additional conflict between her and Daemon. Then we have Baela, Alan and Adam working together to find Lord Corlys in the Gullets. And Alan asked Baela some details about her relationship with her father, since he didn't really get to know him the way she does, and they kind of bond over the situation even though they both had totally opposite upbringings. And eventually Lord Corlys is found by Adam on Seasmoke, and when he reunites with them, he tells Alan that he doesn't have anything for him but his name to give, and Alan tells him that this was what Mountains of Gold. And I just have to say that this was a very wholesome moment, having his two sons finally getting legitimized as they can now proudly bear the Valyrian name. Then we get a scene showing Aegon and Olaris still on their way towards the shore, when their captors are eventually ambushed by some fighters from the Triarchy. And in the midst of all the commotion, they are able to whistle their way out and escape. And I have to say that this scene kind of feels a bit contrived, but yes, we know that they eventually had to escape and keep us on our toes basically. So I'm just going to be keeping my fingers crossed that they eventually do something worthwhile with the two characters, because from what I hear, they didn't really figure much into the story of the books at this point anyway, so it's be interesting to see what they decide to do with both characters at this point. Over at King's Landing, Alicent informs Sir Largent of the City Watch of Rhaenyra's impending arrival, just to put things in order and to ask him and his men to lay down their arms. And it was clear that things were already being set into motion, because by the time Daemon returns to Dragonstone, it was to find Ulf and Hugh, who had abandoned their post where they were supposed to be watching out for Aemond and Vhagar, and he gets in a confrontation with both men, scolding them, Eventually, he talked with the White Worm and he was surprised to find out that she had risen from her station of prisoner since he was gone, and she had even whistled her way into Rhaenyra's court. And it was in the midst of this discussion that they got word that Vhagar had been sighted leaving King's Landing and heading to the Riverlands, which pretty much signaled their opening to take over King's Landing. Heading back to King's Landing, we get this scene with Lord Jasper trying to take advantage of the chaos by having his way with Alicent, but fortunately he's caught in the midst of the act by Grand Maester Orwell and Sorin of the King's Guard and immediately arrested for his actions, which was quite disgusting, I have to say. Back at the Riverlands, Aemon finally arrives with Vhagar to sack Harrenhal, and he gets there to pretty much lay waste to any kind of resistance he finds. And this was a scene that calls back to season 2 when Daemon himself had made the same journey to go and sack Harrenhal. But there was a sharp contrast between the approaches of the two. Aemon just came pretty much to lay waste to everybody. He had very little resistance. He was able to take down all the guards with minimal stress. And when he eventually gets to the main hall, he finds a strong family and demands that he see Daemon. But learning that Daemon wasn't there, he decides to put all of them to the sword. Not before one of them was able to deal him a blow, which proved to be quite significant as he slowly bleeds out in front of Alis, asking for help. Like I said earlier, definitely this is them planting seeds for a turn with Alis. As we can see, she had already expressed interest in wanting the castle of Harrenhal, but having been denied by Daemon and now being presented with Aemon begging for help, it is looking like she's going to turn coats and favor Aemon with the hope of actually getting what she wants at the end of the day. Then we finally get the moments that we had seen from the trailers, which showed Rhaenyra riding to take King's Landing with Daemon. And I just have to say that this scene, this entire stretch, really filled me with a sense of accomplishment, like a sense of progress, because this is what we had been waiting for since God knows when. So to have her making her return finally with this show of force, and we could see from the perspective of the town folk looking up at dragons flying overhead, not sure of what was to come and all that. And the scene proceeds with them discovering that Alicent had indeed held up her end of the bargain and most of the guards had already laid down their arms. But heading into the inner court, they find some little resistance, which Daemon, being the skilled fighter that he is, makes short work of. Then they arrive at the Iron Throne, where the last contingent of guards steps forward, and at this moment it actually seemed like the whole thing might have been a trap. But then the members of the City Watch arrive and reaffirm their allegiance to Daemon and Rhaenyra's claim to the throne, and it was clear that King's Landing was theirs for the taking, except the fact that Rhaenyra had to first clean house. But learning that Aegon had already fled with Lord Larys, she instead has to make do with those members of the King's Court that were loyal to Team Green. So they bring forth Lord Jasper, and in a surprise twist, they also bring out Otto Hightower from the dungeons, and at the urging of Daemon, Rhaenyra has to muster up the courage to do the needful as she steps forward to execute Otto Hightower. And I just have to say that this moment, this scene specifically, left me feeling conflicted. Because yes, it is obvious that Otto Hightower had been behind most of the misfortunes that befell Rhaenyra, but it was still very hard to watch him get executed like this, and her standing there in the pool of blood as she walks up towards the Iron Throne to take it. It was a metaphorical moment that showed that her ascension to the throne definitely came at a price, as you could see her walking towards the throne with imprints of blood being left behind, and even the reflection of the throne in Otto Hightower's blood. It was a very powerful shot indeed, but I just felt iffy. Like, I felt somehow watching this transpire, mainly because Otto Hightower was a character that I felt had been shortchanged. This was a character that had really proven his mettle over the course of the first season and even the earlier parts of the second season. And yes, even though he was kind of positioned in a villainous role, it was still always nice getting to see him. He was one of the strong pillars of the show. And now that he has been eliminated, a part of me is kind of concerned about who would replace him in that capacity, or what would happen in the absence of a character of that magnitude. But the episode ends with Rhaenyra taking her throne, but just before she can bask in the mixed glory and horror of it, Alicent and Helena are brought forward and they witness the fact that she had just executed Otto Hightower. So looking at the episode as a whole, it is clear at this point, very clear, that this was supposed to be a season finale for season 2. Because nobody can tell me that that ending, that final shot showing that stare down between Rhaenyra and Alicent, that would have made for a perfect season finale shot. Like that final moment, really setting up what the third season will be about. But because of the decision to move these 2 episodes into season 3, we're now finally getting it now, and it would have been nice for us to have 2 years to spend with the thoughts of Rhaenyra being the ruler of King's Landing. But now that we're here, we don't know how long this will last for, and I just have to say once again that I'm still unhappy that things had played out the way they are, but at least I'm glad we're finally getting the episode here and now. And in my mind, as far as I'm concerned, I'm just going to consider this as the season 2 finale, the way it was always intended to be. Anyway, these are just my thoughts about episode 2 of season 3 of House of the Dragon. What did you think about the episode? Were you also satisfied with the way things played out in the aftermath of the Battle of the Gullets? Let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed watching this discussion, and to subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on if you'd like to see more discussions like this in the future. And until the next one, this is Michael, signing off.